Hey everybody, Jackson here. A few weeks ago, I posted up a video asking to come play Berserk D&D with me, and now I've gotten some answers, and we've actually started playing. We've had session 0 and the first session of play. It's going absolutely great. This is beyond my expectations when I posted up that video, so I want to share a little bit how session 0 went in case you want to play your own Berserk D&D game. I will start out by saying a few people in the comments may have mentioned, you know, Warhammer may be the better system for this, or why don't you do Simbaroom? And like, yeah, another system might be better. If you are more prone to playing in a different system than 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, do it. You have my blessing. Try it. Dungeons and Dragons is what I feel most comfortable with. It's also what I have the most material for on Roll20 already made. So it's what I went with, and it's what we're all playing with, and we're all having a great time. Also, want to make a shout out to a commenter named Dio Brando. Dio Brando watches my channel apparently, who said he had played in a Berserk D&D game already and shared a few materials with me, including a really nice map and a kickstart on some of the finer details like some languages. So, thank you very much. I really like the input. When I got my table together for the session 0, I found that a lot of the stuff I usually talk about as session 0, especially with professional games with a bunch of random people, really we got to speed through. If you've seen more than one of my videos, you know that I care about consent and safety tools, so everyone there was pretty down for that. But everyone also knew that we were getting into Berserk, so things are going to get pretty R-rated, but we were all going to be there for it and not tiptoe over the line. From there, we were able to talk about the game itself, how I am going to follow along a lot of plot points, but we are not going to directly play out things. The party is not taking the place of guts. They are able to make their own decisions. And that also means the example I gave was, let's say, I don't know, Casca is in danger and it's up to the party whether or not she lives or dies. Well, she could die. As far as the events of Berserk, I'm going to be reverent towards, the events of causality. And of course, we're always going to be respectful towards the source material. But part of playing in a game like this or anything in the Can You Play D&D in series that I did is learn how to drive it like you stole it. Have some fun with it, recognize that your world and your game is going to play out differently. And everyone seemed pretty down for that when they made their characters. Now, with some of that stuff out of the way, we were able to get into the crunchier bits of what home rules or variant rules we were going to use. And I have a few, but it's less than 10. Let's talk about them. First off is a variant rule that I think most of us forget is a variant rule, and that is that I am allowing feats and multi-classing from the player handbook. They're allowed, and not only that, I am going to do what a lot of DMs do and give each player a free bonus feat at first level. The second variant rule is gritty realism. This comes straight from the Dungeon Master's Guide, and it's something that I mentioned in the pitch video. Basically, short rests require 8 hours of rest, and long rests require 7 days of rest or downtime activities. I did have somebody bring up that they would be willing to do this if you recovered half of your total hit dice on a short rest rather than a long rest, and I decided that that's fair and went with it. Number 3 is damage reduction, something that I was really pushing and something that I was excited a lot of players went with. There's a lot of bigger rules about this. It comes from an Unearthed Arcana that was actually from 3.5. I really enjoy it, and it has played out well so far in the first session. Number 4 is flanking. I'm not a big fan of flanking, but when all your players are, you go for it. We know the rules for flanking and what it does. I am keeping advantage and not going with a cumbersome, +2 or +1d4. Just, because we don't have a lot of magic options, we don't have people that are going to cast Fairy Fire all the time. I don't think it's too out there to allow everyone advantage. They'll just have to watch for when I mob them with goblins. Number 5, I'm bundling all together. It's climbing a bigger creature, overrunning, and tumbling because they all basically do the same thing. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it basically means that as an action or a bonus action on your turn, you can make an opposed athletics or acrobatics check to, say, climb on top of a demon or tumble through their space or overrun a Kushan soldier and push them. Number 6 is a minor one. It's cleaving through creatures. When a damage roll brings a creature to 0 HP, excess damage may carry over to an adjacent creature. This is very flavorful for Berserk. It's an easy grab out of the DMG, and it's going to be easy to enforce. Number 7 is a little more tricky, especially on Roll20, but it's numeric exhaustion and stress. This is a little bit of a homebrew I actually saw from a video from XP to level 3, as well as the stress and fear rules from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. When a creature is subject to exhaustion or severe stress or fear, they receive a -1 penalty to all d20 rolls. That is, if they don't make their save. This can accumulate up to a -5 penalty at -6. The creature dies of exhaustion. A short rest clears one -1 penalty, while a long rest clears all penalties. And number 8 was something that I was not expecting, but was brought up by my players, and I agreed to it. It's called Crunchy Crits. It's from Homebrew. On a critical hit, the attacking player may choose to deal additional damage equal to the maximum damage die roll, or we decided they may add flavorful maneuver or a called shot to the critical hit subject to DM approval. So this will allow you to say, oh, I crit, instead of doing some extra damage, I would actually like to maybe try to lop off this guy's hand so he lets go of his sword. And depending on, how low this boss is on HP, I might allow it or I might not. This is super fun. It's going to make our combat a lot more interesting and I think a lot more like Berserk, and that's ultimately what we want out of these rules. When it came time to roll up ability scores, I used a method I call team rolling, where rather than using a standard array, you are, as one of my players put it, essentially making a standard array for the whole table to use. So we went around the virtual table, roll 4d6, take away the lowest, and we generated these 6 scores that everyone uses. This way, you don't have one player that rolls 2 8s while another player rolls 2 18s. It's time to meet our cast of characters that will form the party in our game. And before we get going, I really want to point out how cool it is that these guys made characters that fit into Berserk and the campaign first, rather than making your typical D&D randos and then trying to shove them into the campaign. This is exactly the kind of characters that a good session 0 should come out with. Ambrose has been with Griffith since the Band of the Hawk's formation. If Casca is Griffith's sword, Ambrose is his shield. He was once a Tudor courtier in Genen's court, but found it to be distasteful, as well as the entirety of the ruling class he now struggles against. Ambrose is a variant human. He is a monk, way of mercy. His feats are observant and alert. Steele had a lowly upbringing in Midland. He knew how to fight, but it wasn't until he met a tough mentor that he learned the tenets to an oath of vengeance and swore upon it, fighting against the corruption he saw amongst regular armies and, of course, mercenary bands. One such mercenary band was the Band of the Hawk. When he saw some of the raiders participating in unseemly activities, he set his sword to the task, and Griffith, rather than turning his steel on this man, accepted him to come along with the Band of the Hawk and ensure that his soldiers held themselves to a higher standard. Steele is a variant human. He has the soldier background. He is a paladin 3 with the Oath of Vengeance. His feats are tough and great weapon master. Milosh was a Midland soldier. He was a tinkerer and a battlefield engineer. That is until he came across some secret. The army wanted nothing to do with him anymore, or perhaps he is a wanted man. Either way, he has found refuge with the Band of the Hawk these past few months, where he is able to excel with his archery. His experiences lead him to always watch who he stands next to. Milosh is a variant human. He is a Midland battlefield engineer. He is a Fighter 3 Battlemaster archetype, focusing on archery. He has the feat Sharpshooter and Medium Armor Master. Mirka is a variant human and a Kushan gladiator. He has traveled far from his homeland in order to find greater stories to spread through his unique performance. He is currently being held as a prisoner by the Band of the Hawk after he was seen fighting with strange abilities. It is unknown if these are more attributed to the man or his curious sword with an even more curious egg-like pommel. Mirka is clearly running from his past and trying to solve the mystery of these abilities. He is a Warlock 1, Hexblade, and a Bard 2 seeking the College of Swords. His feats are mobile and Fey touched. We also established that since everyone is in one way or another traveling with the Band of the Hawk, they would gain access to the group patron perks of the military force. This is included in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and gives you access to things like an armory, a chain of command, official access to certain regions and personnel, orders if you're ever in need of a quest, and salary so you don't have to keep up with your daily expenses. So, I think that covers everything. That's our session 0, that's the rules, that's the crew. Tune in next time to find out how we did in session 1 and what kind of story beats I changed from the source material. Before we go, I do want to shout out a channel that, well, there's probably like a dozen channels that I wouldn't have been able to have the confidence to start up YouTube without. But when it comes specifically to the Berserk stuff, I don't think I would have ever made a call out for Berserk D&D without Real Life Ryan. Real Life Ryan is a channel that a lot of Berserk heads are going to know about. And if you don't already, head on over. He has some really great analysis of not only Berserk, and other seinen series like Vinland Saga and Vagabond, but I also really like stuff like his video on Drive, which I'm going to go ahead and link. That's everything, guys. Thank you, Real Life Ryan, for being you. Thank you to my awesome, awesome squad of players. I hope you're watching this, and I'm looking forward to our game this coming weekend. Everybody, don't stop struggling. Have a Nat 20 day. Bye-bye.